in other magazines that your bride is probably looking at, whether it's Vogue or Marie Claire or GQ or whatever it may be, is absolutely vital, isn't it? To be able to give them what they need. But it does shock me when I speak to a lot of wedding photographers who only look at wedding photography and really see it very much as being a separate entity. Is that something also that you hear or you see?
I do, but the biggest thing is that you have to, when it comes to what Grant's saying, I mean, besides that, it is true, a lot of people, I think, choose wedding photography because they think it's very easy to get into. Go and shoot a few weddings as an assistant, put the images on a website, and off you go as a wedding photographer. And you've got to put the time in. I mean, I shot 50 plus weddings. I took a lot of courses, a lot of workshops. Like I said, I work extremely hard, and I know my equipment inside and out, and I see a lot of photographers, they go and take photographs and they really don't know what they're doing with their cameras. They don't know what they're doing with flash. I mean, every single day I go on a photo walk. So I'll pick up my camera, I'll be at home editing. Every day I pick up my Canon 5D Mark II and I'm off on a 10-minute photo walk. Give myself a project like, today I'm going to go on this photo walk and I'm going to shoot red. And I'll go out and I'll shoot everything red for 10 minutes. You've got to constantly keep up with it and know your camera inside and out. And I just think a lot of people, to go and be a top fashion photographer, it's not easy. You got to start somewhere. So I think a lot of photographers come into the business and they think, okay, I'll start with weddings, and then maybe one day I'll be, I don't know, a big top wedding photographer out there, and then all of a sudden they realize how hard it is, and then they're gone. So,
So, of the work that you're seeing at the moment in the wedding industry, what kind of photographers are you seeing who are doing interesting work? Is there anybody within the wedding world? And what do you think about the kind of stuff that's coming out of America, which seems to be very influential at the minute?
For me personally, I get all of my ideas from the States, and I get a lot of my ideas from Australia too. You asked me that question. I don't really look at other wedding photographers for inspiration. I do have an interview site, if any of you know of that, where I do interview a lot of photographers, which is really good. But inspiration for me, like I talked to you before, is fashion and so forth. But in regards to weddings, I don't really have any inspiration in regards to weddings.
But I mean, that's interesting in itself that you're saying that you're not even looking at that other kind of work. You're far more interested. Yeah, but you're far more interested in exactly your own work and where you're taking that. Where do you see the wedding market going over the coming years? Obviously, there has been a huge boom in wedding photographers. The market could be argued to be saturated. Obviously, in the magazine, in Turning Pro, what we're trying to do is give people advice which is realistic, so that we're encouraging people to try it, but be aware of what you're getting involved in. How do you see the industry panning out over the next couple of years?
I see the photographers that will stay around are the photographers that are creating new work, okay? New work all the time, new post-production techniques, and who are at the top of their game in marketing. That's it. Those photographers that are still around and at the top of the game I know them, they're big in marketing, they're trying new things all the time, different angles, different poses, completely different stuff, and that's what it is. To me, it's marketing, and you've got to know your marketing. If any of you out there are wedding photographers now, just go out there, take a marketing course, and be different. Like I said, you've got to be different. Try some new post-production techniques, put on some new lenses, and go from there. If you're doing the same thing, you're not going to be around. You've got to keep going and going and going and trying new things.
You talk about marketing, a lot of people utilize social media in different ways for this. I know that from our perspective with the magazines, we're involved in Twitter, we're involved in Facebook in a big way, websites and blogs, and I even have a personal blog myself now. So we recognize that. Do you think that that's something that a lot of people currently are making the best of, or actually understand how much influence that can have on the growth of their business?
Yeah, Facebook and Twitter is huge. I mean, I have 2,500 friends on Facebook, and most of them are photographers, so huge for marketing. I put a link on there to my blog. That day I put that link on there, I'm getting over like 2,000 hits to my website or my blog. Twitter is very big. Magazines, like I said, magazines are hit and miss. Local magazines in your area are very good. But the most important thing is getting to know the people in your area. I mean, I know all the florists, all the wedding venues, all the car people, I mean, all the businesses that concentrate on weddings, I know them all. So, who do they recommend? Crash Taylor, and every time they recommend me, I send them a bottle of champagne, so that doesn't hurt either. So it's all of these sort of things like that. If a bride and groom recommend me, what do? I call them up, guys, thank you so much for the recommendation, and I'll send them a nice 20 by 16 inch print from their wedding, complimentary on me. What does that cost me, £5–6? So all these little things, you know, help, and they're just, referrals are flooding in now for me. It's great, because I get to pick and choose.
It seems to me that there's a huge attention to detail is one of the key things, and also that kind of being consistent in carrying through and respectful of the people you're working through, and that consistency and that respect is kind of returned back to you. I think, bearing in mind what a big audience we have here for this particular talk, it might be quite interesting to open this up to the audience now, because I can imagine that there are quite a few questions or comments that'd like to be asked, and unfortunately we only have Crash for a limited amount of time. So is there anybody who'd like to ask any questions or make any statements? Yes, sir.
Sorry?
The gentleman's asked how Crash prices his work.
Wow, that's, yeah. Take an hour to answer that. No, but right now in England, you're looking at about 500 to about 1,200 pounds for an average wedding photographer. Then you're looking at about 1,500 to 2,000. Then it goes from about 2 to 3,500. And then some parts of London you can get up to 5,000. But pricing your work is very hard. I mean, a lot of people don't price themselves enough. I mean, I average, you know, 4,000 pounds a wedding, but I definitely think I'm worth 10,000 pounds a wedding. But I can't get it, you know? I might have to move back to the States or someplace, but I know I'm worth that. A lot of photographers say to me, oh, I could never charge 2,000 pounds to shoot a wedding. There's no way I can charge that much money.